With new council houses, what's the thinking and where is the money going to come from?
Well, look, we've got a housing crisis in this country at the moment. People are unable to get on the housing ladder if they want to buy. The private rented sector is getting more and more expensive with less and less secure tenancies and poorer quality as well. And part of how we're going to tackle that is building more social and council homes so that ordinary working people can get that stability, that quality, that they can then go on to lead a successful life. And that's one of the things we've been talking about here at Labour Party conference. And yeah, it isn't cheap. It's not something we can do immediately. But one of the proposals we've got for this is to change the way in which councils can acquire land. At the moment, local authorities and councils almost pay twice for land that they want to build new homes on, because not only do they have to buy the land, they have to pay whoever owns the land, and that might be a former retail site or something in the town centre or a former industrial site. They have to pay them for what that land will be worth in the future when it's already got all the homes built on it, when it's already got the transport links and all the amenities. So they've got to pay twice. And this is just making it too expensive for councils and others to build the homes that we need. So we want to scrap these arcane laws of these land compensation rules, and that will free up councils to have a lot more money and availability to build the homes that we need.
Now, of course, the government have made lots of pledges about, especially to first-time buyers, about setting up schemes that are designed to help them. But, for instance, you know, they often put these schemes in place over new-build houses or those with leaseholds that, frankly, a lot of first-time buyers might not be interested in. The problem, though, of course, is raising the deposit. Would the Labour Party do anything about involving themselves to make sure first-time buyers don't have to pay a deposit on whatever property they want to live in? Or would you actually follow a similar route where, yeah, you're going to help people get on the property ladder, but it has to be in these particular subsets of types of housing or accommodation?
Well, you're absolutely right. Look, under the Conservative government, the number of homeowners actually fallen. Home ownership has fallen under the Conservatives. So, you know, I don't feel that they really can hold this mantle of home ownership anymore. That's before you get to all the leaseholders living in high-rise buildings that are now finding that their flats are unsellable and unmortgageable. Have been really let down by this government. But one of the barriers for first-time buyers that we've been talking about this week is that far too many of our new developments and the new homes that are being built in this country get sold off-plan to foreign investors, often then being left empty, or they end up in the private rented sector. So we want to give first-time buyers first dibs on new developments so that they can access
that's all very well, but my question to you was the Conservatives do just the same thing, basically. They've got all these schemes available when it comes to new builds. But why do first-time buyers have to live in new builds? Why can't they live in the house they want to live in the area that they want to live in? Why should they be penalised, saying, well, look, we'll help you, but only if you live here?
Well, this is just one of the proposals that we're putting forward today. I think the other big issue that will really help first-time buyers to get the financial wherewithal to be able to buy a home is the issue that we're looking at around affordability and the affordability of rents, because rents have gone up so much over the last few years that young people and first-time buyers are unable to save up to get their first home. So we're going to be really looking at this affordability question, and instead of affordable rents being linked to overheated and expensive local markets, we want affordable rents to be redefined as being linked to local wages, around about 30% or a third of local wages, which is much more doable. Many young people are having to pay over 50% of their incomes on housing costs, so this is totally unsustainable, and it means that they're then trapped in the rental sector, in the expensive private rental sector, for a lot longer than they need to be. So there are a range of things that we need to do here to enable first-time buyers to own their own home, to enable those who want the stability of social rent and be able to afford social rent to be able to access that as well. And we've got some really radical plans we've been unveiling here at Labour Party conference about how we're going to do just that, because the Labour Party is the party of homeowners and of tenants, and frankly, the Tory Party have let both those groups down recently.
Music to my ears as someone who wants to buy their first house, but it sounds remarkably similar to what's already on offer. But let's talk about cladding, because that's been a big scandal for the government, and people living in properties that have potentially dangerous cladding on the outside of their buildings are essentially being forced to pay to have that removed themselves. And in the meantime, they're unable to sell their properties and move out of them. What would you do about that?
Well, absolutely. I mean, this has gone way beyond cladding now, actually. This is now a building safety crisis, and it's affecting nearly every tall building in the country, and probably around about 1 million people living in these homes. And what's happened is we've seen a total crisis of confidence. So what began with a cladding scandal has now cut across every issue relating to building safety. And the government have set aside £5 billion to try and solve this issue. But what they're not doing is backing that up with any kind of means by which this will actually solve the problem. So we've called on the government to bring forward what we're calling a building works agency, and that would be a crack team of experts and inspectors and certifiers going block by block around the country to assess, fix, fund and crucially to certify these buildings so that these innocent homeowners who bought their flats in good faith can once and for all move on with their lives, and their flats can once again be mortgageable and insurable. And it really is a national scandal that this has happened under the government's watch.
I mean, there were some statistics out the other day showing that 25% of pensioners now live in houses worth over £1 million, while people, under 40, frankly, struggle to get on the housing ladder. How would you readdress that balance? Because it seems to me that, offering schemes and incentives to buy new builds is no different from what we have already. If the Labour Party were in government, would you go as far as, say, helping first-time buyers by paying for their deposits, or helping first-time buyers by supporting their mortgages?
Well, look, I think what we are talking about is very different from what the government are, first of all, I would say. Secondly, you're absolutely right. One of the reasons that we recently objected to and opposed the government's increase in national insurance contribution to pay for social care costs was because we didn't think it was fair intergenerationally, and it wasn't fair in terms of the distribution between those in productive work, i.e. the working age population, including young people, versus those with significant assets. Those with assets and who can earn money off those assets aren't having to pay anything at all towards these NHS and care costs. And that's why Rachel Reeves, our Shadow Chancellor, yesterday was talking about a fair tax regime that really does redress this balance between the way in which we primarily and overburden the tax regime on productive work, and we don't do enough to tax those who have assets, who are earning lots of money from those assets, like landlords and second homeowners and things. So these are big questions that the Labour Party is addressing, and we're going to be looking at ahead of the next election.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.